Love is Blind might be one of the dumbest shows ever created, and I say that with love. Kinda. Because yes, I watch it not proudly and not like a man making responsible choices with the limited time I have on this planet, but I watch it the same way people slow down to look at a car crash and then pretend they're above everyone else who slowed down to look at the same car crash. I watched episodes before, here and there, but the latest Ohio season, that's the one where I actually committed to watching a full season. I regret to inform you that every episode made me feel slightly worse as a person. I could feel my brain cells dying in real time, like they were holding hands and jumping off a cliff together. After an episode of Love is Blind, I genuinely feel like I need to read a book just to balance out the damage. My brain is going, please, just one chapter of anything. We need to recover. Because this show is insane, and not insane in a fun, quote unquote, dating is complicated way. Insane in a why are adults making lifelong decisions with the judgment of a drunk raccoon? The entire premise is ridiculous. Love is Blind keeps trying to prove that love is blind, and somehow every season will probably prove the exact opposite. We all know this. Love is not blind. Love needs eyes, love needs time, love needs reality. We need to see how someone behaves when they're tired and stressed and, jealous and hungry and all of that. You don't know someone because they cried behind a wall and said, "Oh, I never opened up like this before." Yeah, of course you open up. You're locked in a small room with alcohol, soft lighting, no phone, no normal life, and a production crew begging you to mistake the unresolved childhood trauma for romance. That's definitely not destiny, definitely not love. That's just speed running, quote unquote love, the Netflix way. And the funniest part is that these people are usually not goblins or, most of them look decent. Some of them are genuinely attractive people. They have jobs, they have teeth. They can hold a conversation for more than 4 minutes before saying something deeply concerning. At the start, a lot of them seem relatively normal, which makes it worse. Because then the obvious question becomes, why are you here? If you're reasonable, attractive, socially functional, employed, and supposedly ready for marriage, why do you need a television show to find love? There are dating apps, there are friends, hobbies, bars, gyms, and this ancient forgotten technology called go outside. But no, apparently the solution is to enter a heavily produced Netflix experiment where you propose to someone you've never seen before. Because why? Well, because she or he said, I like family and value communication. Wow, mind blown. This person likes family and communication. Incredible. I have to put a ring on it immediately. That's the thing. I can't get past it. Marriage is not a cute little gamble. This is not choosing, what you want to put on your pizza or something. You're not choosing ice cream. This is potentially the person you're going to live with, buy a house with, share money with, have children with, fight with, sleep next to, build a future with, all of that. And potentially, divorce that same person. But, these people are like, I know we've only spoken through a glowing wall for 10 days, but I feel like you are my person. And I feel like, there it is. The most dangerous phrase in reality television, isn't it? The second someone says this on a show, I feel like, all of that, a crime against common sense is coming. Nobody just says normal things before, I don't get it. Nobody's saying something normal after they say, I feel like. Nobody says something like, I'm not attracted to him. Nobody says, I like the fantasy more than the reality. Nobody says, I wanted the attention, and now I'm scared of the consequences. No, everything has to be wrapped in this therapy language. I feel like I've done the work. No, you haven't. You learned the vocabulary. It's not the same thing. I feel like I deserve someone who chooses me. Fine, but besides the trauma and all of that, what do you bring? I feel like I need to honor my truth. Translation, I'm about to do something extremely selfish, but I still would like some applause for it. And I'm not talking only about the women, the guys are the same. And Don't even get me started on the I've done the work. Every time someone says I've done the work, I immediately start looking for the unfinished construction. Because on this show, I've done the work usually means they went to therapy just long enough to weaponize the vocabulary. They know how to say boundaries, they know how to say safe space, they know how to say emotional availability, they know how to say, I need to protect my peace. But can these people, take some accountability? Can they apologize without adding the whole TED talk? Can they hear criticism without collapsing into a puddle of self pity? Can they handle being told no? Can they choose someone stable instead of chasing the human version of a house fire, a walking red flag? Usually, no. They're not healed, not at all. And that is what makes Love Blind so fascinating and so exhausting at the same time. It's full of people who can describe their wounds beautifully, but still have no idea how to love another person properly. They can talk about childhood, they can talk about their standards, they can talk about what they deserve and want, they can talk about their journey. But the second the real life shows up, these people collapse, like lawn chairs folding, because the pods, they don't test love. The pods test whether someone can sound emotionally appealing in a controlled environment. That's it. You know, Basically, it's can you flirt with a voice? Can you trauma dump tastefully? Can you say, my parents' divorce changed me while, the dramatic piano music plays? Congratulations, you are now engaged to a stranger. Beautiful, But personality, it's not just words. Personality is how someone acts when things are not romantic. It's how you treat waiters, it's how you handle stress and all of that. Love is Blind removes most of that information and then pretends the decision is deeper because it was made with, a lot less information. It's all backwards. Less information does not make a decision more pure, it makes it more stupid. You would not buy a house this way. You would not choose a business partner this way. You would not invest your saving this way. You would not even buy a used car this way. But marriage? Sure. Why not? Let's decide that after 5 emotional phone calls through drywall. That's like taking financial advice from a toddler because he looks confident holding a calculator. That's what it is, really. And then comes the reveal, the big magical moment where they finally see each other. And this is where the show accidentally proves its own premise is nonsense. Because people love saying looks don't matter. And sure, looks are not everything. I get that. Nobody serious believes looks are everything. No one does. But can we please stop pretending physical attraction is some shallow little bonus feature? It isn't. It matters. It's important. Chemistry matters. Sexual attraction matters. Body language, your voice, the energy, the way someone laughs, all of that, it matters. And sometimes the person is objectively good looking, but, the vibe, the chemistry, it feels a little bit cursed. That's the part people don't like admitting. Someone can be physically attractive and still become unattractive almost immediately because attraction is not just a face and a body, it's behavior, it's, all of that. A hot person can become ugly very quickly once their personality enters the room. That's what it is. And this show has plenty of it. And that might be the most honest thing this show reveals. A lot of people, a lot of these people were not single because dating apps failed them. They were single because people eventually got to know them. Harsh? Maybe, but come on, man. The show gives them every romantic advantage possible: soft lighting, emotional music, a vacation, a dramatic countdown, a fantasy storyline, a fairy tale, all of it. And still, within 5 episodes, they're arguing like divorced parents in a garden center. Which brings me to the altar. The stupidest part of the whole freaking show. Because nobody suddenly discovers at the altar that they don't want to get married. Nobody. You knew. Maybe not in the first 48 hours. Fine, I get that. The pots are weird. The reveal is weird. The vacation is weird. All of it is pretty weird. But after all of that, after meeting the families, after arguing about the same red flag 16 times, after watching, feeling your soul leave your body every time they say, oh, my truth, you knew. So why are we here? Why is her mother crying? Why is his mother crying in the front row? Why is your dad wearing a suit? Why did we rent the chairs? Why is there a cake? You know, if you know you don't want to marry someone, be a grown up and leave. Have the conversation and say, look, this isn't working. I can't do this. Is it painful? Yes. Is it awkward? Absolutely. But it's also very adult. Instead, Love is Blind turns basic honesty into a season finale. The altar it's not where you make the decision. It isn't. It's where you reveal whether you had the guts, whether you had the balls to make the call earlier. And maybe, sure, I don't know. Maybe there are contracts, probably. Maybe production pushes them. I get that. They need to make money. They need to have a season, a full season, of course. Maybe once they get far enough, they're expected to walk through the whole circus. But that does not make it better. It makes it kind of creepy. Because now we're not watching love, we're watching people march toward a pre scheduled emotional car crash because Netflix needs an ending. And then someone stands there and says, I love you, but I'm not ready. No, you were ready enough for the vacation, ready enough for the apartment, ready enough for the dress fitting, ready enough for the bachelor party, ready enough to let this person's grandma put on mascara. But somehow your moral clarity arrived only when the violin started playing. Come on, please. I'm not ready at the altar usually means I knew this days ago, but, saying it here makes better television. And that's why I feel this show is so incredibly fake. Even when some of the emotions are probably real, I don't think every contestant is a cartoon villain sitting there whispering, yes, followers. I'm not saying that. Some of them probably do want love. Some of them probably are lonely, and some of them probably do believe in the experiment, which is almost worse. But let's not be stupid here. You're applying to be on a global Netflix dating show. You know cameras are there. You know followers are coming. You know the DMs are coming. You know podcasts are coming. You know someone is going to ask you about your healing journey while you promote a discount code for your skincare routine. So when they say, I'm just here to find love, I'm like, are you? Or are you here because dating apps give you normal matches, but Netflix gives you, fame-ish? Not fame, but fame-ish, the discounted version. Enough fame to get maybe some groupies, maybe some followers, maybe a brand deal here and there, and probably a lot of strangers defending your terrible behavior online. It's not romance, it's influencer boot camp with wedding vows, I guess. And that's why I both love and hate this show, because it's absolutely garbage, but I'm gonna watch all the other seasons as well, because it's also fascinating garbage. Dating reveals people fast. People say they want honesty, then punish the honesty. They say they want depth, but then choose chaos, and all of it. They say they want marriage, then flirt with someone else the second the vacation starts. And I sit here watching, losing IQ points by the minute, whispering, oh my God, this is horrible. And then the next episode starts, and I'm like, fine, just one more. Because the real hook of Love is Blind is not love, it's human nonsense. It's watching people use therapy language to avoid accountability. It's watching adults make decisions with the emotional maturity of a shopping cart. It's watching someone say, I deserve a man or I deserve a woman who shows up for me, while they themselves are basically a walking red flag. And it's watching people confuse being chosen with being loved. That's the huge part of this show. A lot of them don't seem in love with the person. I mean, how could they? They seem in love with the fact that someone picked them. Someone said, I choose you. And that's powerful, I guess, especially if you're insecure or lonely, feel rejected, or desperate to prove you're worthy. But being chosen is not the same as being loved. Sometimes people are not saying yes to the person, they are saying yes to the validation, yes to the winning, yes to the storyline, yes to not being rejected on television, yes to the fantasy that this means they are finally good enough. And that's actually pretty sad. But it's also why the show keeps falling apart. Because love is not a pot conversation. Love is not a reveal. Love is not a vacation. Love is not an altar speech about your truth. Love is a reality tested over time. It's boring Tuesday nights, it's money stress, it's sickness, it's family problems, it's conflict and compromise, all of it. That is the part Love is Blind keeps trying to skip. And you can't skip it. You can't speedrun intimacy. You can't speedrun trust. So, no, Love is Blind is not about finding love. Not at all. It's about people trying to skip the ugly, boring, necessary parts of actually knowing someone or getting to know someone. And every season, the show asks the same question probably: is love blind? And every season, I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be obvious: no. But apparently, judgment is. And look, this is just my take. Maybe you think Love is Blind is beautiful. Maybe you think the experiment works. Maybe you think I'm being too harsh on people who are just trying to find love through a wall on television while accidentally building an Instagram career. Let me know what you think. And now I'm going to read a book because after watching this show, my brain deserves medical attention.